You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hello, I'm Steven Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Excuse the t-shirt. I'm trying to put good vibes out into the ether so the Tigers will trade Tarek Skubal for a bunch of bats. That is what I'm trying to make happen, and I'm going to be doing this and pretty much until the transfer deadline. So if this bit is annoying to you, might not be your day. I am with Daylan Flowers, who comes every Monday. He's in his Cardinals jersey, who just did a 3-team deal, by the way. So we're not going to bore everybody with that. We're going to be here to talk about fall camp because tomorrow players report. But before we get started, I do want to let everybody know about the Insiders program at Locked On Ole Miss. There's a link down in the description. Click on it. It is a free 14-day free trial, but basically it's set up. It's a texting program to where I not notify you of relevant news in the Ole Miss sphere, so you don't have to deal with message boards, trolls, and all of that. And following Ole Miss sports can be fun. But it is the Insiders program here in a couple of days. It is going to be announced. I think we're going to be doing like $1 a month for 3 months or something like that. It's some low rate. So just pay attention for that. We'll put that out there. Anyway, Daylan, how are we doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. Can't complain. I'm doing as good as I can be right now, but I can't complain.
Yeah, I saw the hand injury. That looked gnarly, man.
Yeah, I just got back from LA. I know you're not going to be too fun, but I got a chance to go see my squad Arsenal play Manchester United in LA a couple days ago, and was doing a couple of beach activities and kind of got myself injured. But I'm trying to do the best I can within the injury, though.
Show the bandage to everybody. There we go. All right. I'm glad you're okay. And the Man U Arsenal thing, that sounds interesting. That sounds fun. Was it at the Rose Bowl?
It was at the new SoFi Stadium. It was actually pretty cool. My first time there. And the fan turnout was actually pretty good. It was definitely probably like 70-30 Arsenal fans compared to Man United fans, though. But it was just cool to kind of be in that atmosphere, see the players live, and just I'm excited for the upcoming Premier League season. Just myself, I believe we have hopefully a chance to finally get over that title hump. But I'm excited to see it.
Well, speaking of getting over the hump, Ole Miss had a pretty successful Juice Fest weekend that has resulted in one recommitment already that they lost. Remember when the sky was falling at the beginning of July? We already had one recommitment, and there's a good chance that by the end of this week, there will be another recommitment as well, which means that was a lot of wasted energy for decommitments. And I tell people all the time, you can't worry about decommitments in this world.
You're 100% right, man, and that's something that I've tried to just sprinkle in every now and then when I'm on the show. That's just a part of this kind of football world that we're a part of now. And that thing is, you can always have some type of feelings when we lose commitments, but you have to kind of always remember as well, we're in July, we're in a dead period as well, and at the times as well, even if we don't get that guy committed, he signed somewhere else and plays somewhere, you can never count out the fact that he can be back here in a year or two later within the transfer portal. And so you can't really lose your mind about those things. I have that Lane is put together that, kind of takes out everything he wants to do in terms of recruiting and where we want to go in the future. But I knew things like this would happen. Every school is, and it's not just us. They lose commits that they want. They may end up going somewhere else. They may end up coming back, and that's just kind of what we've experienced here. I know we got Corey Amos back, linebacker, and kind of edge guy as well. That's about a 3-4 star guy on different sites, and I love the kid. He's explosive, just really seems aggressive off the edge scrimmage, and kind of I'd say a Pete Golding prototype player. But I'm excited to have him back, and it's just going to continue to build on recruiting because look, I think Pete is someone, especially on that defensive side of the ball, that kind of accustoms a lot to what Lane looks at in terms of recruiting. Pete has developed just being one of the best defensive recruiters in the country over the last few years, even before his time at Ole Miss. And I think players really buy in and believe into what he's pitching to them when he goes to visit players or when they come to Oxford and they have conversations with Pete. So I have full confidence in our recruiting on that side of the ball and on the offensive side of the ball. Lane has obviously built a a resume over, almost 20 plus years of coaching to be one of the best offensive gurus in football. And I think when you're an offensive guy, whether that's a receiver, a running back, quarterback, offensive line guy, he's developed those guys. He's put those guys in the league. And so I think our recruiting is not something to really be in harm about. We just, had to realize at the end of the day, we had to put reality in our heads. We are Ole Miss, so we had to do things a little bit differently than certain schools, but we're getting to the process and to the steps where we actually want to be. So we got to have faith in our coaching staff.
Yeah. When you look at recruiting, there's this huge economic ecosphere that has been developed between On3 and 247 Sports and Rivals, where they want a commitment and they want finality. And that was one of the benefits that they had, was the finality of an event. Somebody committed, it was over. If they made it to school, they'd have to transfer and sit out per year. Now we're in a situation to where if a kid commits to your school, that is more or less him saying leader. And honestly, whenever they sign with your school, that is more or less them saying leader, because there's still like 8 or 9 more times after that where you could lose that kid or gain a kid. So recruiting, be excited whenever a kid commits to your school. There's no reason not to. Do not get upset. And by all means, do not bag on the kid.
Yeah. That's a big thing too. I had a conversation with David Eckert a couple weeks ago on my show, and he just talked kind of focusedly about how he has to kind of remember sometimes he's talking about a kid's game at the end of the day. And these kids, they're 18, 22 years old. There's no need to bash them. It's not, this is their decision. They're going through a lot of different changes in their mind, blah, 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 hearing a lot of different things. And it happens, man. I'm sure if we were put in that same position, our mind would probably change a little bit too. But that's also just kind of my backing point too. We got to have faith in our coaching staff, because again, we have to go about things differently. And sometimes that's not the appease of certain other fan bases, but we can't worry about pleasing other fan bases. We have to worry about the success we're having on the field, the continued progress we're seeing over the last few years. And we're doing that as well as anybody in the country over the last few years under Lane Kiffin. So we got to just take it where we have it.
Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. When we come back, players are reporting to Ole Miss for fall camp. We will talk about that and the storylines that we are looking forward to in fall camp. So stick around for that. But first, it's summertime, which means it's barbecue season. Stock up on all your grilling favorites and earn cash back on every purchase when you use Ibotta. So you won't have to choose between burgers and hot dogs. You can just get both. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies to even toys. And you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. You can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and many, many more. It's time you join the over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 off for just trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash backs and use code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play Store or the App Store, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege. I love sports. I love them so much I never want them to stop. But the sports aren't sportsing as much as I'd want them to. FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up any bets I want whenever I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster or bonus daily. Maybe I can bet on the Ole Miss Rebels over-under of wins, which currently sits at 9.5. Or maybe I'm interested in Ole Miss being minus 122 to make the college football playoff. Or maybe I'm looking at Ole Miss being plus 1,500 to win the national championship, or Jackson Dart at plus 1,500 to win the Heisman Trophy. Maybe that's my flavor. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all of that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you each and every single day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so Daylan, the Ole Miss team is reporting tomorrow. Fall camp is here. As much as we've willed it to get here after the Peach Bowl ended, it is finally here to where we can set it up. Now, my question for you is, how far in the season ticket process? What's going on like for a student? What are students going through right now?
That's actually a good question, but for me, I've heard things that there's been a delay on them, and there's like a certain amount left, and some students haven't. But I was fortunate enough to get mine months ago, right before school ended last semester, so I'm all good and set up for this upcoming season. I know there is a pushback delay. I don't know how long. I think until school starts back up in late August. So I'm not worried about that. I'll be okay for this upcoming season. So I think there is going to be a little bit of a hectic run for those tickets, but I'm not too concerned about my own self.
So do you think the Furman game, Ole Miss is going to come out with the new white jersey on and they just go all white at home?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think that's kind of been the build-up for the first game of the season over the last few years is that whiteout, but that definitely would kind of bring out a little bit more of a poise within, our off seasons, just kind of putting those into recognition and being excited about the upcoming season. I do know last year we kind of had out the whiteout. We had the red jerseys with the white helmets and the white pants. I do like that as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we mixed that white jersey in with the different color scheme on the helmet and the pants. So I wouldn't be surprised if we implemented it in some way.
Yeah, and I have a feeling I want Ole Miss, if they're undefeated, to wear like the Johnny Vault throwbacks with the Navy jerseys and the numbers on the helmet.
Yeah.
But I think, guessing wise, that might be the real true game. So I'm expecting navy blue, but I think that might be the real true game.
Yeah, we kind of don't know when those things will be implemented, like you said, but I hope at some point in the season, we kind of talked about it a few weeks ago, the opportunity to wear those Johnny Vault jerseys if we continue the pace that we hope to have leading up to a certain game in the middle of the season. But I would love to see them pulled out as well. I think our jersey combinations have really been some of the best in the country over the last few years.
Yeah, it's a situation. Everybody talks about what Oregon does. Mm-hmm. And we're doing that real similar to that, except ours is actually everything's good looking. There's not really any misses like every now and then you see with those Oregon uniforms. Now that could change. That obviously could. I mean, Ole Miss wore the blue pants and the red jerseys and the blue helmet at one time. So there's a way to mess it up, but they haven't really messed it up.
And we're going to continue to hope that they don't mess it up either, because for me, and I've said this before, those are like small things to some people, but I really think that like jersey combinations, just for in terms of on the field, but as well as social media presence, are really big. I really do. Like, I believe they help out a lot of recruiting and just a lot of awareness for the team. I really think they can reach a broader audience with small stuff like that. And I know some people might think that's just being overblown or out of proportion, but I really think small stuff like that is really big.
Yeah, it's big stuff. And like I said, with the players reporting tomorrow, what's your expectations for fall camp? We all know about how excited everybody is. The players have to compartmentalize that and go through and make themselves better. But what are your expectations for this camp?
Well, first and foremost, I'm excited to be back, but I'm also kind of expecting just some of the guys that return from the last year and the previous years, just to lead by example. I'm expecting Jackson Dart to just lead by example. I'm expecting Caden Preschool and Trey Harris to kind of lead by example. I'm expecting Jordan Harris to do the same thing. On defense, JJ Pegues and Jared Ivey, I'm expecting them to take the limits of having everything on their shoulders. I think that they've been here, they understand what the system is, what the expectations are in Oxford, and I think with the crowd and with the team that we have now, we're ready to take that next leap. So I'm expecting a lot of those guys that have been here, been through the wars with this team and this coaching staff to kind of just take a lot of the pressure on their own shoulders. Not saying that they need pressure or anything. I'm just saying I'm expecting them to take a lot of the reps and a lot of the momentous things in this upcoming fall camp, to just be prepared and understand, to bring in a lot of the transfers and new high school recruits to understand what the expectation, what the reality is around this football program.
Yeah, and I'm honestly that makes a ton of sense. Is there anything in particular you're looking for though?
I'm looking at the linebackers in that secondary. I think that there are things that we added this offseason that I'm very excited about, but I also think that we could have maybe poached a few more things within the offseason as well. So I'm excited to see what Pete and Wes Neighbors do in that area. I think that we lost a lot of guys, especially in that secondary to the draft this past year. And we brought in a lot of different guys and a few guys that returned that didn't see too much playing action for us last year in that secondary. So I'm excited to see just kind of how they gel. How aggressive they are, what kind of formations we're playing, how comfortable they seem in those formations, how aggressive they're going to be playing in different formations. So I'm kind of excited to see that area. And just as well, I said the linebackers, I'm really excited about Chris Poopball Jr. People that don't know me, I'm from Arkansas, so I've watched this guy for a long time. I watched him in a Razorback jersey, and I'm just super excited to see him team up with Sontarian Praise and TJ Dudley as well. I think that can really just scare the heck out of a lot of opposition offenses, and bring a lot of different things to allow everyone else in that defense to be more comfortable in a certain position. So I'm really excited to see Poopball out there with this team and just what he brings, his leadership, his awareness, and his experience in the SEC as well to this Ole Miss defense.
Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We have the most perspective surrounding Ole Miss sports. It's one of the many reasons why we're the #1 Ole Miss podcast out there. And thanks everybody for your support. For your second listen, and find a second listen, Spencer McLaughlin and Locked On College Football get you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron with discussion on the upcoming season, on the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, including conference realignment, the portal, NIL, new expanded playoffs, and more. Locked On College Football is available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And now also you can become an insider with Locked On Ole Miss. Link is down in the description. It's the easiest way to follow Ole Miss sports, and it's a way you can avoid all those annoying message board trolls. Best part of it comes with a 14-day free trial. Going to add perks as it grows, and it should be the future, honestly, of college football coverage. Should be really interested. And Daylan, tomorrow on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, we talk about basically how this is Jackson Dart's team, even more so than Lane Kiffin. And so much about his legacy will depend on Jackson Dart and the way he performs this season. And we also talk about the opening of fall camp. So what do you got going on this weekend?
Chilling, man. Trying to make sure I get this hand back in recovery, and just kind of getting prepared for upcoming school year. But I'm kind of on, this is my kind of relaxed week as well. I just kind of got back on vacation, so I'm relaxing this week. And then after this week, I think I'll get back on the heads. But I'm taking a little bit of relaxation this week, man.
Outstanding. Take care of yourself, and we will see you maybe not next weekend, but the week after that.
Sounds good, man. Howdy toddy, y'all.
Take care.